And then I will call in Ismund. Yes, perfect. We are live. Great, guys. I hope you have a good one, and let me know if I get turned around or something, and you need to see me better, and otherwise just enjoy. Hello, sweet dear and beloved beings. I am Ismund of the Anandi, the race you know as the Lyrans, as our planet Usti, it circles a star in that constellation. And I'm so very happy to be here today with you. I would like, before I begin to answer your questions, to comment a little on what is going on and to offer you some advice on how you can handle it. For you, we sense, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to actually wed yourself to yourselves. There is that ancient idea of a heavenly marriage that is taking place, and it is the melding of the opposites within your experience and your physical being that allows for this wedding in the heavens to take place. This is the place where your higher self merges with your physical body in this reality. And this process is underway, whether you like it or not. And it will help you. It will bring you into that vibration that you seek. But the path to that vibration, that sense of balance and harmony, it goes through devotion, that practice of devoting yourself to that thing which you hold important, sacred, valuable in your own life. And when you devote yourself to that, you grow mightily, you flower, and you spring forward. And this process, physically, energetically, metaphysically, it is taking place within that alchemical chamber of your heart space. And in that heart space, things are being blended in order to bring forward a healing potion, a medicine that you will be able to sustain yourself by in those times when you need it. Myself and our race, we were instrumental in adding those broad vibratory spaces to the human heart. We were the only ones capable of the seed races to actually make this expansion for you. And so realize that the idea of the lion heart is very much one that you resonate with on a deep genetic pattern. You are courageous, you are fierce, you are brave, you are independent, and you are also a supporter and a leader of your flock. Wed yourselves to all those principles within you that you find important and devote yourself to them and see how this will change you. We love you very much, and I, Star Warrior, Eastmon of the Anandi, I lend my love and wisdom to you on this day, this Thursday of your time. We are so happy that you would join us in this co-creation, and we look very much forward to answering your questions and sharing our energy with you in detail. Therefore, we will ask, will someone ask us a question, and we would be happy to answer it.
I will ask a question. I'm not sure if questions are being read out on the chat or if we should ask them personally.
Well, you are most welcome to ask them in what way you prefer, but we suggest that if you find yourself on the Zoom call, then you come through and ask your question personally, as it also allows for us to interact with that energy of yours, which is specific, unique, and beautiful to us.
Thank you. There are two questions in front of me. However, I will ask my question as it's just more pertaining to the beautiful guidance you have for us. I am wondering if you can share with us a description of the archons of Lyra and their participation in the creation of this universe.
You see, your question doesn't exactly resonate with me. When you are using the image archons, we know this is a word that carries a very diverse history in human language. And so we can speak to it as it is perceived in that system you call Gnosticism, where archons are seen as the dominating forces that keep this world in darkness. Or we can also speak of the governors or rulers or people that we select to lead in our culture, if that is what you are aiming at.
Yes, that is what I'm aiming at, not at the negative connotation of the word.
Yes, we are
Thank
most yes, we are most happy to satisfy your curiosity. You see in the connection to the creation of the universe where I'm coming from, which is to say I'm focused in the sixth dimension and I am present physically right now in a starship sitting close to the southern limits of that area you know as the Balkans. That is to say, I am in the vicinity of that city you know as Corinth with the canal. Therefore, the questions you ask lie very far from my perspective in our timeline. But as we have developed our understanding of the creation of the universe, it will take place at the end of time. That is to say that all our energies that become developed through this process of time, they will ultimately assist in their highest vibrational expression to actually create this universe. And so you could think of it as the ultimate symphony played at the end, the crescendo of all that is going on now that will then help to create the universe. But it is a collective process, not undertaken by any specific individuals, but undertaken by that enlightened blueprint of the entire experience of our race. And you will participate in this process on equal footing with us when that time arises.
thank you so much.
Thank you also. Notice that in our history, we would just simply also answer your question about the archons to some extent, and that is to say, in our history, we have, of course, much as in your history, have different systems of government corresponding to our needs at the present time, the cultural circumstances, and also our level of consciousness. But there was a period in time where our planet was also ruled by, you could think of it as an alpha type hierarchy, where certain individuals ascended to power and then remained in power until their star waned. But that also passed for us as we became immersed in the fifth dimensional experience and began exchanging sensory and emotional vibrations directly along with their semantic or their verbal expression. And so when we began to understand each other in this way, it allowed for us, as it is slowly allowing your race to do now, to proceed into a higher degree of communication, avoiding misunderstanding, and with most individuals having a very attuned understanding of the idea that, well, the idea of leadership is something that is pragmatic, so it doesn't have any value except that it's necessary to place those people who are most conducive to the functions that needs to be carried out through that leadership role, to place them in that. And that you will develop, we see in 100 years of your time, you will have similar systems where your ideas of stagnant authority in that way will be far gone.
Yes, that does seem what's happening around us. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. And we bless you too, of course, as we bless each and every one of you. And we will then ask, is there another question, either to be read aloud or from someone from the call to come forward? Do not be afraid, dear friends. We are
Uh,
sitting.
Hi,
Yes,
greetings. I'm Sailesh. How are you?
we are glad to meet you, Sailish. And we believe that we are well acquainted with your energy through our oversoul and through the channel. We are well. How are you?
Oh, I'm really well, especially after the session I had with the meds the other day. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you. He
My,
extends
my,
also his gratitude.
my question to you is, how many incarnations have I had on this planet Earth? And are there any particular ones which are relevant to me and be helpful to me in this lifetime?
Yes, we are getting the number. We are getting the number around 873, but then you could perhaps almost extend it up to approximately 903 or 905. That is to say, some of the incarnations have been either very short-lived or have been more incarnate into natural spirits or, yes, energies of, for instance, you spend a lifetime as a river, and we believe maybe it's, the term is estuary, one of those smaller rivers that diverge from the main river of the Amazon. And there was a time approximately 17,500 years ago where you sort of you sort of intertwined your energy with this creation of the river. At this point, it was only just being shaping itself way through the landscape, and there you actually undertook some projects of, you could think of it as fertilization of the land. That is to say, in this river existence, you were very invested in seeing what, with the patience of beginning to water new sections of the Amazon, of experiencing what kind of aquatic life you would attract, and what kind of trees and plants would sprout along your banks. And we sense that the reason this information is coming forward is because it is again to remind you that the patience you find yourself in. Oh, sorry, I forget. Do you have a disturbance on your line too, guys?
Yes, we are
Yeah.
hearing that.
Okay, that is very weird. I'm very terribly sorry, but there's always a snake in paradise.
We are definitely attracting attention. Beautiful.
During the pause, I just want to
That
thank
is
you,
very
Katie and Alex and Salish, for always helping Mads with this creation. It's wonderful. Thank you.
thank you. I'm getting I'm getting used to all these interferences. How strange! It doesn't usually do that, the computer, but I will jump back and connect to them again. Yes, you see, our vibration has a tendency to heighten and activate also electronic circuitry around us. And many of you have been experiencing this in your spiritual awakening. But I was commenting on that existence you had as a river, Salish. And in that existence, it is coming forward to explain to you how that aquatic life also lives within you. So to think of your body and your entire existence more as a type of ecosystem than as an actual personality defined or confined within a body. We sense you growing larger in this sense, but we would also like to bring forward a human life that is beckoning to be heard. And we use this term because this was a human lifetime of squalor, and it was also spent further northwest, but on that same continent of South America. We sense on the Colombian coastline, you spent a lifetime as a slave, having been taken from your homeland. And there is still the indignity sitting in you of that experience, because that indignity is present now in your life as the sense of aggression directed towards you also from society or those outer fuzzy forces that seem to somehow disturb one's perception, even though they don't necessarily appear in your direct experience. This lifetime, it was resolved in pain, and you actually then went off planet for a little while. This lifetime was approximately in the early 1700s, and then your focus went off planet for a little while, and you actually joined our race. And this is why this lifetime is coming forward, because you brought that experience to us of oppression at a time when it was very much needed in our own system, because we were developing ways to relate each other that were non-violent. And so we were harvesting, becoming aware of the experiences of other races feeding into our own. We were also harvesting these painful emotional experiences and learning from them. And that was what you offered in that lifetime. And that we would also thank you very much for. Our dear star brother, who is known to us and our collective as one of our own.
Oh, that is fantastic. I was not aware of it, and I'm happy and very pleased. And no doubt we will converse further on this later on.
Yes, and we look forward to it. Thank you. We will then ask, is there another questioner who wants us to shed light on anything they may wonder about?
Hello, this is Laura. My love and gratitude to you all.
Hello, Laura. Our
Ah,
blessings to you. And we thank you for being here.
I guess today I would just like to know what you'd want to share with me that I don't know to ask for myself.
Oh, that is an interesting question. I am presently attuning myself to your energetic field, Laura. And the message that we are receiving from your higher self, your collective, as a timeless universe of incarnations, we are getting the message to, yes, enjoy the greens while they're still there. They are saying that the autumn is calling you, and you should, if you find it possible, you would find great solace and joy in going to a place in the wilderness for a little while. It might just be an afternoon, but simply just to have the experience of being in an open space where you are not surrounded by any elements that are not either natural or of your own choosing. And it is as simple a message as that, but we sense that that change in color that you will experience on the outside, it will do you well, because it will also remind you that the falling of leaves from trees and the changing of colors in the landscape, it is not a dying, but it is a metamorphosis. And that relates also to your personal journey.
Thank you so much. And that's perfect. I actually just got a leash so we could go to the river this afternoon. So it's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And our blessings to you. May we yeah.
You need to unmute, Matt. You are out. Your internet was
Unmute.
down. Yes.
Thank you. More technical difficulties. You see, it is a manifestation of the worry that has also been building up in the channel's mind around these things. And he is slowly learning that the transmission of energy is timeless, and in time it is orchestrated, and nothing can go wrong. Even when it goes wrong, it all serves that purpose of resonance and vibration, heightening everything by experiencing both the lows and the highs. Then we would ask, does someone hear us now?
Yes, we hear you now.
That is wonderful. And will someone pose a question or read one aloud for us? We would be very happy to answer it for you.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Yes.
So
hello,
I
Alex.
have two questions from Mads. He
Yes.
left them in the chat. So
Thank you. And it is listener Kevin who has emailed them as he couldn't join us today. We are very happy that
okay.
you are reading them to us. Thank you.
So first one is many years ago, he inquired from a channel about his origin and his allergy to eggs. So it was mentioned to him that in a lifetime of as a Lyran, it was a geneticist.
Yes.
So can you expand on that, including what is relevant and helpful for him in this reincarnation?
Yes. We sense that in this lifetime he is describing, it isn't too far from my own on the timeline. And we could give a name, it would be Elon. And this character, this geneticist, he became so immersed in his work that he was absorbed into a sort of type of different vibrational universe that is actually, he tinkered with some code that he then placed in some of those hibernating experiments that were placed around on different planets, and he tried to see what would happen if he just fused a single cell from his own organism into these codes. Then he discovered in a later lifetime that this actually karmically bound him up different places in the universe. And so he spent some effort trying to gather those disparate energies. And it wasn't that these genetic experiments came too much, those he invested himself in, but it was more that there was a karmic attachment that didn't serve him in other lifetimes. And the reason it reminds him of X, which can be quite interesting, but is simply that this was the smell that he was essentially, in many ways, the smell that saturated him. So what you experience when you smell, in particular, the yolks of hard-boiled eggs, was reminiscent of that almost thick, a little nauseating feeling that was sitting in that laboratory. And he didn't appreciate that density of genetic codes afterwards. So he sought out into other existences that would help him alleviate some of that. Or you could think of it as almost genetic uncertainty. That was, he was engaged in a much higher degree of novelty than is common for most lifetimes in different incarnations to actually engage in. And so there is, to him in this lifetime, a return to something that is immediate and uncomplicated. And their eggs simply, even in their protein density, remind him of something that's unpleasant. So if he wants to, he can work on eggs but it would be a hard pattern for him to clear. We actually sense it would be better for him to accept that there's a deep resentment towards the consistency and the feel of X in this lifetime. And that's also all right sometimes.
Okay, that's first. And second, can you please speak about the 5 Tibetan rites as a permission slip for working with the body, working with the body, physical body? Is there any other Lyran tips for balancing and energizing the body in a physical way to support the 5-dimensional circuitry that are built and we are building now?
Yes, we thank you also very much for that question. As we remember using the knowledge of the channel, the 5 Tibetans it's a relatively, say, standard combination of different basic poses that are good for you. We sense that one of them is that one which is commonly known as downward facing dog, and the other simply might be a forward fold. We would say this is a powerful permission slip because it is in many ways so simple and is so easy to work in as a routine. And all of these poses configure your body in a way where your mind is easily soothed and quiet and engaged in what it is doing. But we also remind all of you that you are free bodies in free expressions, and you are allowed to do with them and explore them as you please in this lifetime, because that is something that you are here for. And that means that oftentimes exercise can be very personal. Some like to swim, some like to ride a bike, some like to lift weights, some just like to take brisk walks. They can all be very good for you, and it can depend on your situation. From our perspective, we very much like different types of jumping exercises, things like pouncing. So you could experiment, and we know this is very difficult for the human body to perform, but with actually having both your feet and your hands placed on the ground, and then you can experiment with jumping all 4 parts directly off the ground. That would put you, of course, somewhat in that pyramidal shape of the downward facing dog, but then just experimenting with that energy that lifts you up. Because if you keep up with an experience like this, you will realize that the energy lifting you up is actually not coming from within your muscles, but it is the cosmic energy that you are allowing to pick you up and release you from that gravitational space, which you think of as, well, unescapable often. It is not. And as you see as these vibrations heighten, as we allow our vibration, you will also discover, some of you, the ability to be able to shut down electronics at will. That is to say, you will be able to create such a condensed vibration and perceive how that is an interaction with everything all the time. And that you can actually, by shaping your intent and shaping the way you work with energy in your body, concentrating it on lifting you up, you can actually use this and direct it in concentrated ways that will begin to change your physical reality. It will also mean that some of you will develop the ability to meditate by a sick or ailing houseplant and then experience how life returns to it. Or you will be able to alleviate pains simply by the touch of energy transmission, that discipline, which is also often known as Reiki. We sense that all permission slips are beneficial as long as they bring forward that sense of excitement within you, and that we encourage you to explore. We bless both questioner Kevin, and we also bless Alex for asking the question.
Bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, can I expand a little bit on that?
Yes.
So this meditation activate the mitochondria too in the cell, and also prolong lifespan in the body.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have an idea for that. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. And we are willing to elaborate if you would like.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Well, you could think of it that the proteins that are then broken down into amino acids, it is actually, as we believe they are called nucleotides, that there are 64 of them essentially that make up these base parts that then make up the amino acids, which makes up the proteins, which make up the DNA. And we would add that there are actually an additional 6 combinations which your bodies are learning to work on. We believe it may be only 4 elements that these are composed of, but we cannot use that. It is not present in the channel's mind which these are, but we would simply say that what is going on is that there is a more economic orchestration of the way that your cells expend life. And you see that this change, which has also taken place in your outer existence, you are slowly becoming aware of the idea of energy conservation, for instance. It's also taking place within your cells. And with some of you engage with superfoods or new experiments of, for instance, fasting or ketonic diets or those things, you are also allowing to enter into that vibration where some of these new base nucleotides can shape. And that again actually conserves the life of your cells and allows them to both extend their own longevity, but also partition themselves more efficiently. Yes, we hope that was to some extent helpful. And we will ask then, is there another question that you would like us to answer?
I have another question if it's time to ask a second one.
Yes, of course you can. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. On a personal note, it is my understanding that I was one of the geneticists too on Lyra, and that my name was Katron. And I am wondering, are those two confirmed? Can you validate that? And how much of my Lyran self am I carrying at this moment? And can you expand on those 3 things for me?
Yes. We can expand. Yes, we can confirm that this existence is real. We would then suggest that the channel who passed on the name may have been a little infatuated with the type of comic book names that were popular in his childhood. We get the vibration of that incarnation more as Pietro, which is more aligned with our vibration, we sense that sort of a little heart on at the end isn't really expressive of that lifetime where you actually had a very inclusive role in the genetic program, which of course is a way to describe all the genetic undertakings, and that is because this lifetime you were a gatherer of material, so you actually of genetic materials, so you spent quite a lot of time in our own botanical system, so what you know as forests, and there you collected samples, and then you actually became immersed in the experience of collective energy with one of these animal type of animal creatures that lived on our planet. So you could think of it almost as a type of Jane Goodall experience. And for those of you who don't remember, we believe she is the lady who lived with chimpanzees for a very long time and began to relate to them socially. And you began to relate to these creatures. We called them the intro, and they were also pawed creatures, but they were sort of also represented a feline line of evolution that had taken a different turn. So they were nocturnal creatures. They were almost lynx-like in their appearance, and you connected very closely to them, and you actually learned to speak their language. And we sense that right now, this Lyran lifetime of Pietro, which is again a vibration that, remember, is always to some degree shaped by the level of interpretation that the vessel we are coming through is passing on. But we sense that she was able to actually achieve a great deal of, well, in the development of, you could think of it, of interspecies psychology as we understood it. And you're resonating a lot with her, partially because she was approximately at the same vibrational level on our evolutionary scale as you are on yours. So at the same place on the timeline from the progression into the fourth to the fifth dimension. And she's right now present, we sense, at around 9.2 thirds in your energetic field, which is a quite high presence for a spirit guide to have. So you could think of it as when someone actually becomes fully possessed by a different spirit, it is to some extent that percentage approaches more than half. And so actually having a tenth of another entity feeding into your lifetime is also why she's very present in your own experience now.
Oh my goodness. Thank you very much for that.
You are so very welcome. And she also extends her blessings, we would like you to know.
Thank you. Thank you. I will contact her more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then we would ask Alexandru, is there languages on that thing you call the YouTube, or we believe questions was the word?
Yes, actually, I was looking at that before you think of that.
Yes.
Okay, maybe you saw that.
Everything.
So it's in synchronicity, yes.
Exactly.
Of course.
Finishing each other's sentences, even, that is also, yes, you know, the idea that great minds think alike, we would all extend to you and be so grateful that you as humanity, you have all aligned our vibration with ours to the extent that these interactions can take place so freely as they do.
Well, thank you for your kind words and big ones. So, one moment, please. So it's a question. It is true that in order to reincarnate, you have to reach 21 state of a sphere or something like that.
Yes. We are not quite sure what is meant by this question. So you could think of it as there are many different developmental patterns in the cosmos, and they can be laid out, but we do not sense that the number 2021, at least from the information that we are tapping here, is perhaps most relevant to that cosmic pattern that you find in the major arcana of your tarot. And then there is that trick that you may know or have read about, that there are two different developmental patterns, one going forward and one going backward. And so the fulfillment of material existence proceeds from 0 to 21 through those 22 cards, we believe it is. And that proceeds from the Fool to the universe. So from that place of being lost into the fullness of the all. But know that the experience spiritually proceeds the other way. So it proceeds from that idea of the universe, of the card that is also sometimes called the world, that is everything, the thing that you are born out of, and then progressing through all these stages back into that state of the Holy Fool, which is the sacred expression of that human being which trusts its instincts and have the security to kid around and experiment with its own life.
Okay, another question.
Yes.
Ketu Shah
Yes.
asked he have a vision of a destroyed planet with the green skies and the canine species live underground. Can you please give any information about it?
Yes. Maybe we ask, what was the species that was living underground again?
He write about a canine species.
Yes. So we believe the same as dogs, right? Yes. We sense that this is a lifetime he's recalling from. It's quite far out. It isn't the Milky Way galaxy, but it is quite far out. It's a race that, yes, we would actually use this hard sound to communicate it. So the tong klong tong, you could call them, and it is a sort of hellscapish planet. It was on that timeline. It ran into biological warfare, so it began to experiment with gases, and the reason he's reliving this experience is because his lungs are somehow protesting what has been going on with him recently. So they have been struggling a little in his local environment. So he's been bothered in his breathing, and therefore he's recalling this. And the way to resolve it would simply to remind himself that the sky is blue when he looks out now. So green skies no more, we would say, and that he won't be going underground in this lifetime. And then remember to be kind to dogs. That was also alleviate some of the fear that he holds from this lifetime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Carol Lucy Lorty asked if she have any affiliation with the Lyrans, and do they have a message for her? Thank you.
Yes. she does have some affiliation with us. It is not very strong at present in her energetic field, but there are some distant connections, and many of our cousins in the Galactic Alliance are such as the Pleiadians, but actually also some of the friendly reptilian energies are quite present also in developing her. But we do have the message that we remember that her knees are actually vortices in themselves. We're getting the image that's being transmitted from her spirit family to us to deliver to her is the image that of spirals sitting around her knees, and there we would. So she's being encouraged to bend and flex her knees more, and also working a little on stretching her leg tendons, because we sense there is an element of imbalance that is centered there, but can actually easily be remedied. And there you will feel that when you do that with your knees, you will feel way more solid on your feet, and that will actually it'll just give you better days in general. So that's that. In many ways quite simple, but we sense also pertinent advice that we would offer her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, a little exopolitics.
Yes.
So Shane asked, to what extent has there been working relationship between U.S. government and 80 races? And is there any truth to the Project Serpo, Dolce base, and even the presence of Nazi army in Antarctica to this day?
Yes. We sense this information that you are so kind to relate to us from the YouTube is stemming from quite a dark place, and we would say there has been some communication between alien races and the U.S. government, most notably the Greys, but this communication actually ceased as an integrated part of government operations around the Kennedy assassination. And we can reveal to you that this was instrumental or a working factor in that assassination. It was to sever what you may know as, has been termed also as the breakaway civilization. And this isn't necessarily a cabal or an evil conspiracy, but these are simply some of the forces, protected programs within the military that are sort of layers within layers. So very few people know what are going on, but the people who are going on, who know what are going on, are also to some degree what many fearfully refer to as Illuminatis. That is to say, actually, people who are illuminated with the light from the other side, with this, which is the original meaning, and they are tending quite tenderly to the release of these technologies, and they would also be able to, for instance, disarm a nuclear attack should it come to that. But we are dealing with a relatively small group that is also very benignly aligned with the interests of us and the human race, as we have also, in order to simply allow some of our ideas to be exchanged, there we have actually, of course, also, we in the sense make the vibrational demand that we can sense who these people actually are and what information might benefit them. And so the Greys didn't have this luxury, and some things will begin to emerge, such as microwaves, which weren't really essentially controlled, but which were then contained by the interceding of other races. And then we would simply say that the idea of Nazi bunkers in Antarctica seems like a logistical nightmare with your current technologies. And so it is quite unlikely. And we know this message has been brought forward before, but usually the agenda of either the entities transmitting such messages or the human beings furthering such messages is usually to gather attention, influence, and the sense of importance or power in the eyes of others. And you are constantly lending them that power from yourself, because the idea is that you are essentially a cosmic creator unto yourself. You are that image of the perfect cosmos sitting within time space right now. And so the idea that anyone would be able to take your power away from you, except from what you actually allow them to do within your experience, is not something that resonates with our higher dimensional perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another question from YouTube
Yes.
is asking Jennifer
Yes.
Cabral ask how can humans tap with more trust into instinct and intuition. She need a light quote in a personal situation where she was told was a situation with mistrust in someone close, and that become true. She knows about that. Her intuition works very well, but I think her trust in her intuition. How about more trust or exercise for that?
Yes. We thank also the both of you for bringing us this question and our universal blessings. This is a very helpful topic for us to illuminate, as we know that trust is, as we have been pointing to in that image of the heavenly marriage, it is actually what is required to melt those disparate parts of you. And we would say that it is not necessarily always helpful to trust your fellow human beings, but it is instead very helpful to love them. That is to say, to contain what they are, and also the faults or suspicions or things that you may have to reject that they bring forward, is also well loved by being accepted, while trusting them is, we understand in interpersonal human relationships, something that is also to be earned. And that is a lesson for many light workers, as you naturally exude trust in the goodness of other people, because you have that image with you, carrying it with you from the higher realms of what human beings can actually be. And so to trust your intuition is in many ways to turn off your perception, and then know that instead there is that major conception of what is actually taking place in that situation. And in that place, you can offer any emotion that arise. You can offer that emotion the understanding that it is seeking. And you do this by writing it into the book of your life. And of course, this can be done in the shape of a diary, which can be very helpful when you are dealing with these experiences of other people. Actually process, what emotions did that human being make me feel? But it is also to say that you can actually only experience what is negative from others, because you also understand that perspective of negativity within yourself, that you know you are not perfect, and you know that you have also experienced having, well, unsatisfied wants and needs and wishes for the world, that you then felt you had to some degree push others to try to get them to accommodate you, and then harvesting them the experiences from that. And so when someone tries to do that from you, take slight pity on them, because know they're coming from that place of want, and that can be helpful. And also know that sometimes you actually satisfy that want within others better by not feeding it, and then following your what is true in that situation, allowing yourself to say no or remove yourself, uncomfortable as it may be, and then knowing that that person, trusting that that person is as competent as you are, and therefore able to also find the resources within themselves to actually, yes, circumvent their problems. Yes.
Another question from YouTube.
Yes.
John Mitchell asks, what do you know of the race Patal, also known in ancient builders or something like that?
Yes. We do not sense that much about them. Oh, here they are. It's interesting. They have a type of greenish hue. You could actually think of them as related to that image of little green men that you have, and they used to make expeditions to the Earth. They're quite that type of almost stereotypical alien explorer type alien who used to make expeditions to the Earth in the time of Lemuria, but they haven't been really engaged in the processes here, as their own race has actually become quite immersed in some inner conflicts that they are trying to settle. So they have also left Earth very much to other designs, such as our own benevolent design for you.
That's it from YouTube.
That is perfect. Do you have a question you would like to answer us personally, Alexandru?
Yes, personally, I can be selfish too.
Yes.
If I have a lifetime in Lyran system, and a little about that.
Yes. You do. You do. We would sense that this lifetime that is coming forward is approximately 5.161, yes, 113, something to that effect, active in your energy field. So there are definitely lessons feeding in from this lifetime energetically. And the name we are getting is Himtu. Himlu is HIMLU, is the word we're getting. This is also a female lifetime, but it is a lifetime where you see much as the Lyans. It's a warlike. We actually also often associate more of the direct combative energies with the feminine, because there's also a ferocity in the feminine energies that don't hold back in regards with the emotion that is overpouring. And we sense that this is what she's coming forward to. She was a kind of champion warrior. It's in our fourth dimensional lifetime that she's coming forward, where she spent her time well, challenging people to single combat to a high degree, and she was also very good at it. So she became first renowned in her lifetime, and then a type of legendary character on the planet of Lyra. So much as you know a figure as Achilles or Hercules, there are also songs of Himlu, the barbarian, who, oh, she was a champion who vanquished barbarians. That's the image that we're getting in what's being transmitted, and the message that she's bringing you is also her own fierceness, her own sense of combativeness, and again, synchronistically, as you mentioned, also the ability to be selfish, which is healthy to the extent that you actually need to sustain and feed yourself before you come to that place where you're sustaining and feeding others also.
Yeah, thank you. Thinking, well, before today, like the last week, I know that is coming, and I think I connect with Lyran energy, and I have the urge to look the movie with samurai, and of course, last movie was with Musashi, which was very great warrior, and also he challenged in life all the best swordsmen in Japan to learn and craft his warrior. How do I say? Egregor and anyway, it's a science in that. I'm more peaceful person, but you can, if you observe, you can learn from anything, and
Yes,
you can adapt, and maybe only for wisdom part, and you don't need to actually take action.
exactly, because of course, as she's also communicating, it also means that since you have had these experiences, you can also align with them without having to live them out again in a lifetime here. So we don't in any way foresee that you will be cutting people down with swords in your recent future in this lifetime, but we do sense that martial energy of the ability to also, yes, push yourself in the world, and having that willingness of confronting what you are bringing with what the world may meet it with. That's essentially the energetic message we sense.
I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and many blessings to you, Alexandru. We will
Blessings.
ask. Yes, is anyone on the Zoom call having another question that fluttering in their hearts?
Yes, hello. It's Salish again.
Yes, hello, Silish.
Okay, just like Kate and Alex, I'd like to know more about my incarnation in the Lyran system.
Yes. Kismun is the name. It's close to my name, and you may notice that these E and U vibrations are very much aligned with our energy. So Kismun, which again could be a K, an I, an S, an M, an U, and an N. And this is actually a male name. You can distinguish it by, much as you often in names ending in an A resonate that with a female vibration in many languages, then you can also think that we have that K sound as something that is very masculine. And his role was, it was agricultural. So you see, we faced it later in our evolutionary history, the idea that we couldn't sustain ourselves from the fruits that the land brought forward. So we had simply grown too much in population. So it was either destroy our ecosystems and the species living on them, or beginning to develop types of bringing food forward in greater quantities. And he was instrumental in this, cultivating a type of a sweet vegetable. You could almost think of it as, it would to your eyes look somewhat like an eggplant, but then more in a tomato-like color. And he was actually very prosperous. So he became it's interesting because he helped elevate something that to us, because we didn't have a tradition for it, wasn't held in high regard. He helped elevate that to something which was very admired. And so we became very indebted, because that also began our switch into sustaining ourselves on, well, more what you would think of as plant-based diets, that is to say, organisms that belong to a lower density and that don't have nervous systems in order to move them around, for instance.
Oh, okay. You able to talk any further on the incarnation that I had after the Colombian one on Earth you mentioned?
Yes. Yes. It's interesting because we sense it is the same lifetime that is coming forward. And now we are connecting the patterns. It is because there was an uncompromising willingness for you, and then in your Lyran lifetime as Kismon after your Colombian one, to be a freeholder. That is to say, to be someone who brought forward things from the land that could supply him and also nourish others without having to just give it all away, or being subjected to the exploitation of others. And that played out in, so you could also, by our standards, you were also then quite a grumpy character, but we were understanding that this grumpiness also was actually important for entities to maintain their integrity in their creative processes which you were undertaking. So the pain was transformed through cultivation, and that's a message that's being transmitted to you now.
Okay, and just finally, how strong is the Lyran energy in my field in this incarnation?
Yes, it has been sitting higher. Earlier in your life, it sat at around 7%, and now we sense it is around 3.5%. It can rise, and it will on occasion, but we do feel that there are some other energies that resonate more with you. And we are being shown an energy connected to your planet Neptune. And we would advise you to examine the position of Neptune in your birth chart, because we sense that this will be helpful to you. This is the message that is coming through. But know that you are, as an awakened star being, able to connect to your Lyran lifetimes and also those others, should you want to, and really be in the situation where their energy and experience would be helpful for you in the moment.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, and our blessings to you. We are so happy to be able to bring forward so much of our galactic family this day. And then we would remind you all that, yes, you can in many ways detect the presence of your Lyran guides. You know, many high vibrational entities can seem very close to each other to human perception, but you can detect us by that sense of almost static electricity that you would also generate from. So if you remember scrubbing your hands on a rock or something that would produce it, that sense of tingling fuzziness, so almost being embalmed in that fuzzy electricity, that is something that we are very instrumental in lending to you. And then we would ask, would someone else on the Zoom call like to ask us a question?
If I may, that what you just shared with us just prompted a question.
Yes, thank you.
So when I go to do healing work or am in meditation or asking to hear from you all, my
Yes,
hands do start to tingle. Is that what you're talking about?
yes, that is what we are talking about. In your case, the energy, and they are can be very hard to discern from each other. And we would also say it doesn't necessarily matter that much who they are stemming from, because in your case, the energy is stemming more from directly from the Holy Ghost. So that 12th dimensional energy that this channel calls quanta, it is that energy in its personal guise. So you could think of it as when that tinkling happens, it's almost as if your soul or your higher self is sitting down and allowing itself to rest in you and then become integrated. And when it does, that tingling will often begin in different places, but be very strong in the hands, because those are also places where your nerve ends are very strong, but the hands are also the place where you receive and interact from. And so your fingers are also very powerful transmitters of energy, and that is what you are experiencing is actually energy, often in its more purified form. So it's a vibration that's seen from the perspective of the all is much higher than ours, but coming through into this density, they are very reminiscent of each other. But you are connecting not home only to your guides and to those other planetary existences, but you are connecting home straight to the angelic worlds of force and creation and eternal light.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you
love
very
you
much.
all.
And we love you too. We love you, Laura, and we love all of you, all of humanity we love, and all of you participating in this and allowing for our energy to grow in your hearts. We love you for that. And we will ask, are there any more questions coming through from the Zoom call?
Yes, hello. It's not from a Zoom call, it's from the YouTube. I think we missed a question from, I believe,
Baby, stop!
yes, Laurie Riley asks,
Yes.
hello and greetings, dear Ismo, Mads, and all joining the Zoom meeting. I've had many wonderful cats and connect with animals. Wondering if I have Lyran energy and guides, and how can I connect to them?
Yes. Yes, you have many Lyran energies and guides. This is a very strong connection. It's sitting around 14%. And it is also noticed that you have so much heart energy to share, so it's natural for you. So you are actually physically, even in your childhood, you were being upgraded by us or by allowing our energy to come in, and so that it remained open to animals always, and that you have such a big heart for animals is something that is an indicator of this, but it also extends to your fellow human beings and your immediate concern for others and the love you offer them. And we would say that many of your cats, cats are quite the little channelers themselves. So often you will just experience it's your cat, and it seems like that also mute creature, which is mostly cares about, well, either scratching you up or getting snuggles or getting something to eat, but sometimes you will sense that there is something else there, and those are in many ways your guides that then show up in your cats, because your cats are usually guided to you when you are in that place where you also receive emotional support from your animals. And you are able to contact us. We would also bring forward a lifetime. She's called Niu. Niu is the word we're getting. And oh yes, what is it she's doing? Technologies can be very hard to transmit into words from one place from the other, because she's building a type of, you could think of it as a particle accelerator, but it's a type of emotional energy condenser. So much as you create movies, there was a type in our experience, there was a time in our experience where we created a type of emotional compressors. So these were like, you could almost think of them as wind tunnels that would then blow you. And that's why we're getting that image of the particle accelerator, because it's a type of an energetic tunnel that will flush you through. And there, in that sense, in that space, you could allow your life to flash before your eyes, and then through that emotional compression, actually experience emotions as something beautiful to be released. And that's something that's a talent that you carry with you in your interpersonal relationships in this lifetime. And you can connect to us simply by petting your cats, we would say, but also another good way, and in particular to connecting to your guide Neo, would be to yes, what is that we're getting? It would be to begin to tap yourself on that. It's sort of the center of your heel, but also that borderline between your heel and the rest of the foot. There's actually some very finely attuned energy lines, and if you begin to stimulate them or softly tap them, there you will also see that this fuzzy energy is rising. And then if you simply, by that modality of prayer, opening up or asking in, then if you simply, yes, recall the name Neo, or simply recall the Lyrans and our energy and your connection to them, then we will begin to appear, and you may sense us again as that type of passing energy, or a sense of a comforting change in temperature that may pass before you. And we sense this is also particular to your experience, as you are a very emotionally capable individual. This is often how your primary experience of the world is, and it is also therefore that you often experience the non-physical through these dimensions. And we thank Laurie very much for also joining in and posting that wonderful question, and for Sailesh for also keeping her in mind and bringing it through to us. we would ask then. Yes.
I have
Well,
one final question, if I
Y-
may. I'm sorry if
It,
can you explain or speak upon the perception that people now seem to believe that Lyrans actually began on Vega? And could you kind of set the world straight, as it were, if that's not the case?
well, to to our to our understanding, Vega is also a star, and we are connected to some of the entities that stem from planets circling from this star, but we do not necessarily connect to that energy particularly well. But you could think of some of these misconceptions arising from the fact that often when we beam ourselves into connection into this star system, we pass through some of the planetary grids of often your neighboring planets. And so there are a lot of energies, in particular, using Venus, that morning star, that bright planet in the sky. They use her, or the energy of this planet, to translate their own energies into this solar system. And that is why it will sometimes become a little diffuse where they pick up on this. We also sense that there is what you could think of as feline energy present in this other race, and therefore it is understandable that you would also mix them up, as we are often known as the feline race of the galaxy, though you know there are many species on your planet alone, though not intelligent, but that we also form a highly effective mammalian blueprint that is found distributed around different star systems in this galaxy. Yes.
Thank you. I hope that helps everyone a little bit. Thank you so much.
You too, and many blessings to you too, and to all of you. Yes, we would ask, does anyone else hold questions to be answered?
Yes. So I have one, particularly about your history. So you had your own planet, like a race,
Yes.
and I understand that you, let's say, you exploit a lot of it, and to the final days, another race come and destroy your planet, and the Lyran must freed in the universe. Is that true?
Well, it was more that our planet was left unhospitable to carry on the way of living that was able to it. So you could think of it much as a type of ecological destruction. So there are still some scattered Lyran cities on the planet, but they are few and far apart, and they have separated themselves much from the original energy, which was distorted by the influx of a draconic race that we then fought with for a very, very long time, and to some degree still have confrontational exchanges with. And so it is true that essentially we then jumped into different motherships and began instead to explore the galaxy. And we would point to you, much as sometimes you experience that difficulties or catastrophe in your own life actually set you on a more expansive course. This also happened for us, as we were quite, you could think of us as exclusive, almost arrogant race before we went through these confrontations with the reptilians.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now you are in Europe and above Europe. Excuse me.
Yes.
Well, how big is your ship?
It's approximately 17 meters at its widest point, but it is a type of triangular construction. So that would be the central intersecting line, which the channel doesn't have an English word for, but it is. So it is in a sense a triangle, but it is not that. It's not that wide. It only holds the. You could think of it as the orientational devices up front. So the actual space of habituation or where it's possible to have some movement is approximately 4.5 by 5 meters. So it's 5 meters at the bottom of that triangle, and then it narrows in, and then it takes a sort of a bend and a dip. So it is, to some extent, you could think of it as a reminiscent of the shape of your jet type aircrafts, but much
Bigger.
larger. Yes,
Yeah.
much bigger, and also more streamlined, and not needing to also being able to sustain itself simply by creating an energy field around it.
I understand,
Yes.
of course. So, what is if you want to share, what is the propulsion system?
This is interesting. We use it to. Yes, we actually. What is this type of energy? It's hard to translate into human words, because what we do is that it's much related to the technology. You can best compare it with that you actually use it, what you use for your high-speed train lines. So that idea that we actually create a type of vacuum of negative space that is propelling us forward. So it is a type of, it's not a black hole per se physically, but it is a type of black hole technology where we actually create a type of density that is so strong by bending space in front of the vessel that the gravitational pull pulls it forward. And then we use a different system, which is more of a teleportation device, where we alter the vibrational code of the material of ourselves and the ship to move it between very long distances. But between short distances, this is what we experience. And this is also, so sometimes you will see, when more images of our spacecrafts emerge, you will get that idea of the flowing orb. And it's actually because the orb is in many ways that light pattern that you get from that. It's emerging. It's the light pattern escaping from that matter that we condense into something that isn't able to contain that light anymore. And that brings our ship forward, which is usually the ship itself is usually naked to the human eye unless we choose to reveal ourselves.
I see. So it's electromagnetical, and also you use for the, let's say, vacuum.
Yes.
You use inertia, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. So using inertia, you need to anchor that energy to a planet or object like moon or something like that, or just a point in space in the framework in that point in space.
Yes, this is a very good. It's a very good question, and we could say the answer is to some degree both, because we use the coordinates to get into that point of space, but then the inertia is actually upheld by a dynamic process, much as something that's in perfect balance is actually just about to tip onto both sides. So we are constantly reading the energetic spectrums of the surroundings and then positioning ourselves in order to do that. So as the moon shifts, we also change our energetic grid not to be affected
I
physically.
understand.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you very
That
much.
was fun.
Yes, we also enjoy it and enjoyed it, we would say. And we sense also that we do not have a sense of time as you had, but we can sense that the channel is getting a little tired. So we will ask, is there anyone who have questions or things they would like for us to shed some light on?
Yes, there's one last question I just spotted on YouTube, if you want to go ahead with that.
Yes, thank you.
It's by Carol Lucy Lottie,
Yes.
and she says, they say I come from a royal family called Weemu,
Yes.
spelled Weeibmu.
Yes.
Can you tell where they are located?
Well, yes, they are. And we do not sense that this is necessarily an answer that will bring you much happiness, but much as your royal families have been on this planet, they have also to some degree been confined to the scrap heaps of history. So when we think of royalty in our sense, we think more of that elevation of spirit within a being, as we spoke of leadership, that somehow carries them into position. And there are certain clans, such as yours, who align with this energy and often bring it forward, but it is quite momentary whether or not you could think of them as royalty in our present understanding of the term, where these terms have more survived only as ceremonial titles. But we do sense there is an experience where this royal family, where it ran amok at some point, and there was a lot of blood feuding, which is not uncommon when you hold into those tight family bounds. And that is something that you are resolving in this lifetime. It is the sense of shattered nobility that is somehow holding you back and that is blocking you from taking on that true leadership of spirit, which is also calling you. And this is what your connection to this royal family, which we cannot make the channel repeat the name exactly, but we do point out that it had much of that same ooey vibration that we have been transmitting to you this night. And yes, we thank you also, Carol, for posing that question, and deliver our blessings to her on this journey. And we deliver our blessings to all of you. And now, drawing a full circle and picking up on the theme of the wedding, we will then encourage any one of you, if there are any things on your mind that you would like to share, then speak now or forever hold your peace. Yes, we sense that this is not the question. And then I, Ismon of the Anandi, I thank you, all of you, for being open to share this experience for so consciously activating your alliance and alignment with our race and energies. I will offer you a ritual prayer from our civilization spoken in the temples of old. It stems from a type of liturgical language which we used. And I will then transmit a translation in English. Iskumunduisk ulustu umfu indu humbast ulumbudan indu ustumbut ing u undumumumbu ustumbumumvum istu uk stukunkitu stuk ingt ual. From the ground of the planet arises a strength that lives in your bones and that breathes in your muscles. You are that unity of strength and life, of will and intention that was set on this orb to carry out the will of the High One residing in your heart of hearts. I, Ismon, Star Warrior of the Anandi, and with me, the entire Lyran race and our energies, I thank you and I bless you again. Goodbye, sweet humans.
Thank you and bless you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Beautiful, wonderful, guys. That, apart from some technical difficulties here, I think it actually worked very well with a very pleasant that I could just channel and that you guys were on top of the questions and stuff. So thank you so much for that.
It was fantastic.